question, right? It's really specific on our ecosystem. So obviously I'm biased on this is I wouldn't say it's on the record answer, but kind of off the record, I would say I'm looking for better DEXs to compete, to have this like multiple DEXs as a product to compete in the ecosystem. Macaron is a team we know, we trust, but they have their limitation as well. If you look at the Solana, for example, right? They have Ethereum, they have Radium, they have Jupiter, they have others. Jupiter, of course, is a DEX aggregator, right? And we are now, exploring that with Rubik. For ecosystem to have good trading and experiences for users, it needs to have like different type of user interface across, and also target user kind of approach, right? So Macaron is Uniswap v2. Uniswap v2 has a pros and cons compared to Uniswap v3 model. And Macaron has interesting design with the curve stablecoin pool. So for DEXs, I think I wouldn't say necessarily I'm the user, but I will assume some people wants to look for some kind of AMM model kind of DEXs as well, right? Something almost Jupiter kind of working on, right? In Solana, there's a Drift, which is a very interesting kind of AMM model kind of UI, but it's perp DEX. So I would consider in the DeFi composability side, all the DeFi stack, right? Solana did a good job in the last 2 years, although they went through a very hard kind of bear market. But a lot of the products pretty solid with good user experience. Obviously, Solana has different culture, different asset protocol, different architect. But at the end of the day, it's about a good trading experiences. Macaron is very kind of this like, it's funny cartoon design, right? I wouldn't think it's very serious kind of design. For other user, for example, some kind of whale or some kind of like high frequent traders, I don't think that serves the demand. So it's really not hardcore technology difference in terms of DEXs, but the way they design, the way they brand themselves, the approaches, the features, and also the backend, right? The Uniswap v3 or v2, it plays different role. Uniswap v3 has higher capital efficiency, but there's a different like pros and cons, right? And there are a few DEXs which are very innovative. I saw like they have a way to make it programmable on the liquidity pools. So we have been talking to a few of them that build on Arbitron and ZK Sync, and obviously these guys are not on Bitcoin yet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Thanks,
Awesome.
Charlie.
No problem.
Pedro.
Thank you very much, Charlie, for your insights. I'd like to ask about, you talked about real world assets tokenization. And I wanted to ask you about why do you think, which would be the best candidates of real world assets to tokenize, in your opinion? And what characteristics would these assets need to have to be tokenized easier than others? And why hasn't been done this in the past? Why do you think now is the time to tokenize real world assets, and while in the past this couldn't be done massively?
Yeah, well, real world assets has certain bottlenecks too, right? DeFi Llama, all kinds of on-chain data platform doesn't really recognize those as like TVL or on-chain assets, which make them kind of hard for all kind of ecosystem to engage, because at the end of the day, we're looking at on-chain assets, right? So there's like different platform like RWA.org and a few others kind of working on that. So what I can speak on behalf of Bitlayer is we're talking to Chainlink very closely. They have this like data stream and a prover attestant kind of tooling. They are actually working with all kinds of real world assets. But if you ask me why this is a cycle real world assets is kind of picking up, I think it's really just for the sake of, well, the Bitcoin ecosystem, the whole Web3 ecosystem kind of exhaust, how to say that? We went through all kinds of asset types already, right? We have all the NFT assets, which is like community-driven assets being, built by social consensus. A lot of them died out, right? And then stablecoin are here to stay. We have a lot of stablecoin assets already, right? And then we want to tap into the real world stuff, right? And in the past, people were exploring the real estate, which most of them didn't work out, and with all kinds of reasons. I don't think I'm the expert to deep dive on that, but there's like many reasons didn't work out, at least not have mass adoption. And now this cycle, we talk about TBO, we talk about like AI competition power, and many other things, which is very programmable, which is easy to quantify, and which has real value, right? And we can measure the value, right? And those are the value can be put into collateralization, right? And it can have a way to have the proof of asset, proof of reserve, and then that will. The fact we can recognize it and actually break the bridge between the world, like Web 2 and Web 3, and I think that's a way to engage the asset side on the supply and the demand side as well. I think that's important, right? And also this cycle is all about bringing institution money to space, right? You know, I've been keep saying about ETF, right? We're backed by Franklin Templeton. We're talking to all the other ETF firms. I think today I just saw the news. ETF just surpassed 20 billion on Bitcoin purchasing power. I would honestly argue we don't even enter the Bitcoin or Web3 bull cycle yet for the retail. Only the institutions are actually entering the space, right? I think real world assets just somehow as a narrative just click for all the institutions, right? 20 billion buying pressure on this cycle. It didn't happen in 2021, right? And without those 20 billion, we wouldn't have like this momentum of maybe hitting all-time high, right? In the surpassed 73K on Bitcoin. It's not gonna happen, right? The retail is a small echo chamber in the Web3 world right now. I think after the Bitcoin pumped to all-time high, some of the very hit, like real world assets protocol become very big and a couple $1 billion. And then we're gonna see the retail come along with like bull market cycle, right? But that's not happening. Like the whole bull cycle craziness, like what happened in 2021, I would say it's not nearly close happening. Yeah. So I don't have a very scientific answer. It's all moving parts. Real world assets, some people even think it's a fake trend. I think it's a real trend with fundamentals, but it's still early stage. Yeah.
Great answer. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Let's keep it going. Dan and then Andrew. What happened
Hi,
here?
Charlie.
Just dropped. Oh,
Hi, nice to meet you, Ben.
Thanks for giving us your time. This is highly appreciated. And I actually have I'm wondering if you can ask this question. I don't know if you've been there, but can you tell us the story of how you met your angel user?
Oh, well, I met a few angels because proof of work, quote unquote proof of work, being this space for a long time, being this space over multiple cycles, so people know each other. Obviously, previously I was not a founder in Bitlayer, and I started Bitlayer only last November, but people know me because of my previous involvement with Polkadot, with Tezos, with Polygon, by traveling around. You know, sometimes literally having some beers across different conference matters.
Well, okay, hold on. You're talking about angel investors, right?
Yeah, I think he's talking about angel investor. Like how did I meet my angel investor, right?
No,
No, I meant the users.
Your early adopters, basically. Like
Yeah.
we are angel users, but you know, most of the world.
I see. The angel users is the very interesting part. I think it's so here's a different thing. Like I'm not building a DApp, we're building an ecosystem, right? Our first batch of users are actually the builders, right? So we start from the low-hanging fruit. We start from low-hanging fruit on the sector side, like start from like lending protocol. So we know our lending protocol guys by just years of network, right? We know them and we trust them. You always start from your inner circle first, like the guys you trust the most. They're not going to be the rug puller, right? They're not going to be the guys who just steal your grants and just run away, right? They're going to stick around. So I guess that's kind of the easy answer. It's not inspiring, unfortunately. It's not some out of blue, magically I find those people and there's a click. It's not. It's really start from the low-hanging fruit that by being in the space for 3 cycles, you know those guys. Those guys are not going to fuck you over, right? They're going to build in real stuff. We see them with track record. They have existing code base even. And we meet them in person. That's how we start on angel users, being the builders. In terms of retail, because at the end of the day, in Web3, there are 3 things they're selling, right? It's a very good speech made by this guy called Murad, right? In doing Token 2049. Yeah, I suggest people to watch it. Obviously, he's talking about meme coin, which is a different topic. At the end of the day, we're selling 3 things. 1 is our technology. 3 is our community. No matter it's culture or vibe or whatever, right? And then the third thing is token. We don't have our token yet. It's still a couple months away. So we're setting the technology, the vision together with the community. People like Bitcoin culture. People like this vision of BVM, this trust minimized bridge, the whole, native blow up idea. Obviously, during the time we have this hype of ordinals was helpful, right? So that was there. I think finding the first batch of angel users is very correlated with the right timing. If the timing is not right, then it's very hard, right? In 2021, if you're building an interesting gaming project, you probably can have a lot of user base fairly easy if you launch in the right timing, because that was hot. That wasn't the D narrative. Everybody was kind of get ready for the next one. Like if you have a good product with a very good user experience game product with some interesting tokenomics, you're gonna have user fairly easy. Now, good luck with that. The whole gaming narrative really died down. It's gonna be very hard to get users, right? So timing is actually very important. Yeah, then just network, right? Find the right target audience with some community leaders who can actually help you to promote. That's very important. So I would say it's always B2B2C in crypto space. You need to find some B2B partners who can eventually lead you to the customers, like retail, no matter it's DeFi users or whatever application you build.
That was a profoundly helpful answer. Many thanks.
No problem.
Awesome. Andrew.
Hey, Charlie, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today. I have a question about the Bitcoin future use cases. So in my opinion, in the opinion of other people as well, it seems like Bitcoin have succeeded with store of value use case. There's like ETFs, and it's more of like a macro asset right now. But we know that millions of people still want this Bitcoin, and as a method of payment and this like micro asset, it doesn't succeed so far. And so my question is like, what do you think is the future of Bitcoin in terms of like retail and mass market? Like, what are the use cases, not the price, but use cases, say like 3-5 years from now? Like, what do you see? What's your opinion on that?
It's very well. First of all, it's not financial opinion. It's not our official opinions, right? I try to not push my opinions too much by building ecosystem. That's kind of the philosophical rule, in Ethereum called a law of subtraction, meaning the market will tell event and figure it out, right? So we try to be very humbling, in that part. But if I just like off the record sharing my personal opinion, Bitcoin has been this starter value, as you said, right? The digital gold in the last 15 years. But ordinals really changed the momentum, right? That brings this crazy, open up this Pandora box, right? Last year, I was a user, we were having fun speculating, inscribing a lot of these ordinals, right? No matter it's JPEG, PFP stuff, right? Or the BRC20 with ticker. It makes this builder culture or this kind of building things fun on Bitcoin back, right? So that was there. There was a lot of assets creating on top of Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, if you ask what use cases can be surrounded with Bitcoin, right? That was not too many, right? Payment was only one, right? And payment is kind of there with Lightning, right? With a state channel kind of message. But you can't have smart contract. There's no like all these like simple basic financial mechanism with it. Like we're talking about lending, we're talking about stablecoin. None of them actually happened in the past, right? So it's a philosophical debate. Some people say Bitcoin should never have that. Just leave Bitcoin alone. We don't need the use cases. All these use cases built on top of Bitcoin is a waste of time. That's a very maxi and laser eye kind of a statement. Philosophically, you can argue certain things doesn't exist, then they shouldn't exist. It's a philosophical way to say it. We would argue it's not true because certain solution and a certain threshold of fundamental infrastructure was not ready, was not available. So we can't build things on top of Bitcoin. Bitcoin never had this programmability. It's a UTXO cash system with no, programmability, right? So you can't build a lot of things on top of it. It's a very clunky, very slow, very expensive network, but it's secure. It's very decentralized. So, but now there's like a lot of new solution coming around, right? No matter it's the off-chain index kind of a scaling solution like RGB all the layer twos like what we're working on as well, like EVM model or UTX chain model. But I think there's two fundamental things I strongly believe, because of the whole momentum with like Bitcoin being this most important alternative assets, you know, the financialization around Bitcoin with new Bitcoin holders who wants to use holding the Bitcoin assets, but tap into all kinds of yield method and all kinds of basic financial method. There's a demand on that. It's a simple rule of modern finance. When you have assets, you don't want to enjoy only on the capital gain because of the volatility. You also want to enjoy with holding the assets by itself, right? With staking on all the other things or borrow against it. So that's like a modern finance kind of first principle of use cases. On top of that, it really depends on what we can get creative, right? So I think it's very hard to make a prediction 10 years later, what people wants to use Bitcoin around. I mean, start from the basics, right? I think that's something in DeFi, in Ethereum, we kind of already see the traction. A lot of the very battle-tested, big proven protocols are actually the boring use cases. I'm talking boring meaning like the DEXs, the lending. It's not like the most fancy, sexy story, but people use it, right? Like with the biggest TVL. And I think Bitcoin will start from that as well. I'm not like a very narrative chaser. I'm not a narrative chaser, right? If you give me this rocket science great narrative, which is not proven, I will be like, okay, good luck. How I can help? But you know, I wouldn't really jump on the wagon, you know, by myself, right? That's kind of my 2 cents. But I don't know really how the use case will end up with. Maybe something very crazy. I think 5 years ago, nobody would think about a runes. This meme coin protocol will be happen on top of Bitcoin, but it happens, right? Like now people inscribing all kinds of weird, you know, dog to the moon kind of rune stuff on Bitcoin, and people have fun with it. I don't know, right? This is something really remains to be seen. Yeah.